Austin Price from Volquest, covering Tennessee football and recruiting. He joins us each week. Thanks to Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Austin, thanks for the time as always. The 23 season finished in exciting fashion for Tennessee. Nico with the big performance against Iowa, shutout win. So what's next? Tennessee starts building for 2024. What do you think is on the to-do list for Tennessee's coaches, whether it's short-term, looking at the roster and the transfer portal, or beyond that?
Well, you have to continue to build on your roster. That never stops, and you have to continue to build depth in spring practice. I think you saw some glimpses from some young guys this year. I think this spring is big for Arion Carter coming back off injury. I think it's big for, obviously, Ricky Gibson and any of those young DBs. It's big for John Slaughter. It's big for Ethan Davis. Obviously big for Nico. And then any of these transfers. I mean, Holden Stays, getting kind of a change of pace, right? I mean, he's going from an offense at Notre Dame that ran a play every 5 minutes to one that runs one every 5 seconds or less. So, that will be different for him. Chris Brazel, spring does he have? So, that's the kind of the short-term hitting the portal with any kind of positions you can hit with, whether it be offensive line, another tight end, so on and so forth. And then spring practice to build depth with a lot of these players to kind of take a huge step into next season.
This past season, you had the best three-headed monster at running back in the SEC. Make the argument for their play in the country. Now you're going to have Dylan Sampson. You're going to have Cam Seldon. How do we feel about the running back room in 24? Do you think Tennessee will look at possibly adding any guys? You got a freshman coming off of injury. You have a freshman this will be a sophomore that hasn't played a lot. How do we feel about the running backs going to next year?
I feel really good about him. Obviously, Dylan Sampson has continued to put the work in, and he'll get a chance to be the lead back next year. But Cam Seldon looked, I thought, really, really good for his first extended playing time in the bowl game. I think there's Khalifa Keith's a bigger bruiser back who can be an asset, and then I think there's a lot of high hope for a guy like Peyton Lewis who will step in here and go to class here in a couple of weeks and go through spring ball, and I think there's a lot of high hopes for him to kind of be that next really good Tennessee tailback that Josh Heupel helps produce. Gary Mack as well.
Austin Price, Volquest.com. Why we're here, Austin, to quote the great Marshawn Lynch. Zalance Hurd, the 5-star offensive tackle from LSU, just hit the portal. What's going on with him? Is Tennessee taking a big swing at him?
Well, Tennessee would love to be in play with Hurd. We'll see if they can get there. A lot of rumors out there about Ole Miss. The kid's kind of been quiet on all sides, and the question is was this thing kind of already done before he ever got in the portal, or which again goes back to tampering with. I mean, that's kind of rampant all through college football. Or is he kind of getting his bearings about him and kind of figuring out where he wants to go? Because he's not got any visits set up to this point, as we said here on Wednesday, and we'll see if anything materializes. But Colorado's taking the swing, Ole Miss is taking the swing, Tennessee's taking the swing. A lot of schools are swinging at the big offensive tackle from LSU, and we'll see if anything gets on there. But right now it's kind of in its preliminary stages. Tennessee would certainly like to be in play. The question is kind of where's he at in the process?
Are there other spots to watch, either positions of need or players in particular with those positions that Tennessee could pursue in the transfer portal? And where does Tennessee stand with its roster in terms of could there be more players that look to make a move and leave this offseason?
Josh, that's a great question. I mean, with the new rule, any player that had transferred before, you didn't really worry about them, right? But with the new rule, you have to think that, if there's a guy or two that's, transferred before, that they're a potential flight risk from a standpoint of do they try to just leverage for more money with NIL? That's all part of the game now. Are they happy with kind of their spot in the program? So, whether it's, Gerald Mincy, Dante Thornton, Omar Norman-Lott, Andre Keurig, like all those players are eligible. Now, I'm not saying they're leaving. I'm just saying they're eligible to look around. 3 weeks ago, you didn't have to worry about any of those guys. So, like, I think you kind of had saw all the movements you were going to see. I mean, is it possible you see another, move out or whatever? Sure. As far as moving, potential guys moving in, I think if Tennessee could add another tight end just to build depth in the room, I think they'd love to. Right now they have Holden Stays, Ethan Davis, and then the freshman, from California, Harrison, and then I think they'd love to add another piece or two in the secondary if they could, especially potentially safety. There's the Jalen McMurray kid from Temple is someone that Tennessee's looking at. He's a corner. And then Tennessee'd love to add pieces along the offensive line if anybody goes in the portal between now and the end of the day / the next few days, with some windows being a little longer than others with teams wrapping up their bowl seasons.
Yeah, what is the window? I guess I've gotten myself confused. What is the deadline for players, and is it dependent on when season's wrapped up with the bowl game, as you just mentioned?
Well, today's the day. But when they passed that new rule, it extended everything. So, like, you basically have 5 days from the bowl game. And so when you look at, like, Tennessee, a lot of those kids have until Friday, to kind of make their decision. With teams like TCU and Michigan, they'll have 5 days past next Monday's championship game. And so every window's different. Like Ohio State played their game a few days before New Year's, so their window's kind of coming, or maybe it's today, I guess. So every team is a little different in terms of the window, but the window for teams that didn't make a bowl or didn't play in the last handful of days is today.
Gotcha.
What do you think about the notion that if you're Tennessee, you're building around Nico on offense and building around James Pierce on defense when it comes to the transfer portal and making sure that heading into winter workouts in spring that you're making sure the guys are developed as much as possible, because those are your two stars on either side of the football?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jason, that's where you want to build it at, right? I mean, you want to build it around Nico. You want to build it around James Pierce. And, these are two heavy hitters, 2 5-star type players that, have some juice. James obviously had a phenomenal sophomore year. And of course, Nico is Nico. So, you want to build it around those players. And, that's kind of where Tennessee will build it for the 2024 season. Again, Tennessee needs to add some more quality depth on the offensive line. They need to add, and I think they have, changed the landscape at receiver, because I think they really like these 2 freshmen they brought in. Braylon Staley turned a lot of heads in bowl practice. Mike Matthews has been really good. And then obviously Chris Brazel. And I think, when you think about Tennessee's offense, what does it look like with Nico running it? Are they able to run more tempo than they could with Joe? I mean, do they work the middle of the field more? Do they throw it vertically more than they did with Joe? Does it look more like it did when Hendon was here? All these things are things that we'll have the next 9 months to debate, and we'll see kind of where this thing washes out at. But this is an offense that I think has a chance to be different looking in a positive way in 2024. And probably a little more athletic than they were this past fall.
What does the return, Austin Price of Volquest with us, of Bru McCoy mean, do you think, for Tennessee's offense in 2024? And what do you know about where he is in his recovery from the injury he suffered during the season?
Ahead of the pace. I was able to sit down with Brew, kind of talk to him about the process, and he's ahead of kind of ahead of the pace of where he would be normally according to his doctors. And I don't think he's gonna be out there for spring practice or anything, but I think he'll be, he's gonna be upright. He's already been able to start doing some running. He's doing a lot of pull work as far as kind of getting the leg and ankle back right. And he's been out there in Los Angeles with one of the best foot doctors in the country, and I think that's helped his progression of his rehab. And so, to get him back is big from a leadership standpoint, definitely from a blocking standpoint. Brew is a big-bodied receiver that can go and box out. So now all of a sudden you kind of have him and Brazel, who kind of guys that, they could go up there and get it. Tennessee really, I thought, missed Brew/Cedric Tillman's role this year. And that's not to say that, the young sophomores didn't or redshirt freshmen didn't step in and play solid. They did. But, I equated, when we were taping our podcast today, I kind of equated, Tennessee's receiver group was kind of, it was, solid this year. It was solid in 2007, or was it 2007, with Lucas Taylor and Austin Rogers and Josh Briscoe and Quentin Hancock, but it wasn't as solid as it was in 2006, and I'm not going to let it go to his head, but when, you had Swain and Meacham and Brett Smith, and same thing this year. You had a good solid group, then Brew goes down, and then they become not as dynamic as they were last year with Hyatt, Tillman, and Brew. So that's a group, I think, led by Brew, that will have to be and should be more dynamic in 2024.
Did you like that, Swain?
No, he called it solid. It was better than solid, AP. It's better than solid, man. So don't worry about it going to my head.
No. Solid was 2007. Solid was this year. Dynamic was 2006.
You're the dynamic group. Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm probably need some butter to get through the door.
What's not dynamic is your ability to follow along in the story.
I'll check the tape. I got to check the tape. Shout out to Coach Fulmer. I'll check the tape.
Austin, did we miss anything? Anything we should have asked you about or should cover for Tennessee fans of what's next, what the Tennessee staff might be working on before we let you go?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, I think attention will turn to the, little bits in the portal. With LSU getting rid of their entire defensive staff, does that crack the door open for Tennessee to maybe get Dominic McKinley to town on a visit like he was supposed to be here at the 20th? Did they get that one back on the books, because all of a sudden, the defensive staff that, he kind of knew a little bit that had recruited him is gone. And, does that open the door a little bit with the Dominic McKinley? Only time will tell. Tennessee's going to reach out there. Like, they're going to reach out there, see if they can get him to campus. We'll see if it happens. Again, the kid's from, basically an hour away from Baton Rouge. It should surprise nobody that the kid, committed there on New Year's Day. Probably more surprising that he committed to Texas A&M to begin with. But, again, with all the change and with the potential change looming if, Brian Kelly doesn't have a great year next year, does it give him a little bit of pause? Does he take a visit or two? And is Tennessee one of those visits? That would be something I think you have to, at least watch over the next, 10 to 14 days.
The college football world never stops spinning. Austin Price is keeping up with it at Volquest.com, and he joins us each week here on Josh and Swain thanks to Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, making it unique, making it special, and making it just for you. They want to be your jeweler at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Austin, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.